This sign warns vehicular traffic that the road will narrow ahead on both sides. This sign warns vehicular traffic that the road will narrow ahead on the right-hand side. This sign warns road users that they are approaching a zebra crossing and should be prepared to stop if necessary. There is a risk that farm traffic and agricultural vehicles will be using the road ahead, which may be slow-moving and difficult to pass. There is a risk that horse-drawn vehicles will be using the road ahead, which may be slow-moving and difficult to pass. There is a crossing ahead used by migratory toads, so drivers should proceed with caution. The school crossing patrol use the road ahead. This sign shows children may be playing at a children's playground ahead, so drivers should be aware of potential hazards. There is a school ahead, so there may be particular hazards ahead at certain times of the day. This sign shows sheep may be likely hazards on the road ahead. The road ahead has a risk of wild animals crossing, so drivers should remain alert for this potential hazard. This sign shows wildfowl are a potential hazard on the road ahead. The road ahead has a high risk of being used by wild horses and ponies. The road ahead is crossed with a cattle grid. This sign shows cattle are a possible risk on the road ahead, so drivers should continue cautiously. This sign shows horse-drawn vehicles an alternative route for them to use at a cattle grid. This sign warns that there is a cattle crossing ahead in 200 yards that is supervised. This sign shows due to an accident in the road ahead, drivers should continue with caution and adjust their speed accordingly. This sign indicates a danger ahead and will be accompanied by a sign below, indicating the nature of that hazard in writing. The distance indicated refers to how long either hazard or prohibition of an accompanying sign will continue for. This sign indicates the distance to a hazard ahead, and will be accompanied by a sign with an image indicating the nature of the hazard. This sign warns that the road ahead has a right-hand bend in it, that may require you to slow down. This sign warns vehicular traffic that the road will narrow ahead on the left-hand side. This sign shows due to the position of the road it is likely that may be a risk of ice or packed snow, so skidding may be an issue. This sign warns road users that sudden aircraft noise or low-flying aircraft are likely ahead to help prevent surprise. This sign warns road users that sudden helicopter noise or low-flying helicopters are likely ahead to help prevent surprise. This sign shows military vehicles are likely to be crossing the road ahead slowly, so drivers should continue along the road with caution. There may be pedestrians in the road as there is no footway ahead for 400 yards. This sign shows cables above the road are being repaired, so there may be a risk of falling debris. This sign shows pedestrians are likely to be a hazard on the road ahead. This sign warns road users that road ahead is likely to be afflicted with queues of traffic. The road ahead is at risk from falling rocks, and you may also come across fallen rocks in the road. This sign shows due to its position, the road ahead is at risk of flooding. This sign shows because of the terrain, the road ahead is likely to have slow-moving lorries for 2 miles. This sign shows because of a steep incline, the road ahead is likely to have slow-moving lorries. The road ahead may be at risk of smoke which could affect visibility, so drivers should adjust their speed accordingly. The road ahead is more likely to suffer from snow drifts. The road ahead is likely to be used by accompanied ponies and horses who may need to cross, so should approach with caution. The area you are entering is an area with infected animals, and where you may find animals that are a potential rabies risk. This sign shows drivers are warned that they are approaching an area where there is a high likelihood of blind children crossing the road, so they should adjust their speed down accordingly, in case they need to stop suddenly. The area ahead is near a school or playground where children and parents may be going to or from. This sign shows drivers are warned that they are approaching an area where there is a high likelihood of deaf children crossing the road, so they should adjust their speed down accordingly, in case they need to stop suddenly. This sign shows drivers are warned that they are approaching an area where there is a high likelihood of disabled children crossing the road, so they should adjust their speed down accordingly, in case they need to stop suddenly. The road ahead has soft verges on either side for 2 miles ahead that may be difficult to see and become narrow in places. This sign shows soft verges ahead. There is a steep downwards hill ahead with a gradient of 10%, so a low gear should be used. There is a steep downwards hill ahead with a gradient of 20%, so a low gear should be used. This sign encourages drivers to test their brakes after a hazard that may have increased their risk of brake failure, such as crossing a ford or in advance of steep downwards hill. This sign warns drivers to turn on the lights as they are approaching a tunnel. This sign warns drivers that the road ahead is of an uneven surface.